So welcome to BliXX.
BliXX.
We're Ariane and Beatrice, aka PriestessA and QueenB, and today is our Q&A first day. So everybody who is curious about us, about the work that we share, about Conscious Kink, is welcome to drop us a message, an email, or in our Telegram group. Anything that they always wanted to know and having us answered. So today we're gonna talk into Tantra as part of Conscious Kink, and we're gonna share more about our individual stories and journeys, what made it to this place eventually.
So the first question that we receive says like this: your brand is about Conscious Kink, but on your website there are many references to Tantra. Do you consider Tantra to be kink? And this question comes from Vanessa. So, well, first of all that we do is not Tantra, is Neo-Tantra. This is the first thing that we want to make clear, because nowadays everything is Tantra and there is like a huge confusion around that. Traditional white classic Tantra is mostly about singing mantras and meditation on geometrical figures called yantras. And there is a few, maybe a couple of rituals that involve sexual fluids, and that's all. That's all what Tantra says about sex. Then Tantra started to develop until, well, today, that we can call all these practices that we do with presence and embodiment, we call them Tantra, but they are Neo-Tantra. So, then what is kink? So kink are all these practices where people get sexually aroused and is not the normative sexual practices. So anything which is outside of kissing, licking, oral sex, or intercourse will be considered a kink. Therefore, any Tantra sexual practice is kink because it's outside of the norm. So it's kink by definition. However, mainstream still has like a huge differentiation of what is a Tantra or sacred sexuality and what is kink. But in BliXX, our mission is to bridge all these worlds. So, so we call this fusion Conscious Kink. It's not our term, it's a general term. I don't know who invented, but yeah. This is how it's called, Conscious Kink. And essentially is this art of practicing any kink, any sexual kink out of the norm practice with a full awareness. And this is why this conscious, what implies is this awareness. So then, in our opinion, kink and Tantra have a lot of things in common. The first one is, as I already mentioned, is this awareness, is this presence, is to be in the body, doing whatever practice you are doing with this full awareness.
One thing is the full awareness, and another thing is the polarity. So in Tantra, they're teaching about the masculine inside of us and the feminine inside of us. It does not have anything to do with woman or man. It is simply two polarities, two energies. From everything is carved out of these energies. Everything that we experience, everything that is matter, comes from these two energies. One, the masculine, is also associated with the doing. It's also called the yang energy and this energy of the sun in yoga. So it's this giving, doing, focusing. And the other part of this energy that we all have in us is the feminine one, which is also associated with being or with receiving, with surrendering, with like, when we're not doing, we're usually resting. Or, so these are the two polarities that each of us knows within themselves. So it's like being active during the day and resting during the night. So it's the sun principle and the moon principle. But also within every action, we have these two principles. So kink is also using these two polarities as to polarize between the two practitioners in a scene, or the two participants of a scene. And there is one person who is giving, and then there is another person who is usually receiving. So
top
you can
bottom,
top and bottom, exactly. So you can make use out of these energies within and among us, and increase the play, increase the intensity, increase the energies, increase the setup.
The two persons go to the poles. So one is like more on their giving pole, and the other one is the bigger the sexual tension, the energetical arch is, the bigger the attraction.
Exactly. So, yeah, thank you for adding that. Exactly. And then where they are also strongly aligning is both, as well as kink, as well as tantra, are focusing on expanding consciousness. So in both, the idea is to enter an altered state of consciousness. So in tantra, this would be samadhi, like the bliss state. And in kink, this state is called subspace. And they are both very, very, very similar, though the tools and techniques used to enter these states may differ. But as Beatrice said before, in BliXX, we're merging this, and we're using combinations out of both worlds, and seeing how we can alter our states of consciousness to eventually expand our consciousness. And then furthermore, we want to talk into the radical self-acceptance, or the freedom and the non-judgment, which is a very crucial element to both arts of erotic consciousness, tantra and kink, and also is one of the principles, therefore, in Conscious Kink, which is the cultivation of a mindset where we are in total acceptance, where we are accepting whatever is from the inside and from the outside, without putting force into becoming something in a future moment that we are not in that moment. So really being good with what is in this moment is an aspect that we're cultivating, that comes from both areas, from Tantra and from Kink.
Tantra essentially explains that everything is sacred, like there is no creator, the creation is God. Therefore, everything that is the creation is sacred. Therefore, it must be a total acceptance. Exactly. And as well, any kink community, BDSM community,
you experience, yeah, you experience that, because people have so many different desires. And if you're having a fetish or a kink that is very much outside of the social normative, you want to be accepted, you need to accept yourself. So usually these communities, they are working very much with these concepts around radical acceptance, as to accept everybody's desires and create a space where all our needs are met. Exactly.
As soon as it's consensual.
Very important. Consent is very important in kink, in tantra, in conscious kink. It's all about consent.
We have to say that the kink community or BDSM community knows more about consent than tantra. Now, tantra workshops are starting to implement they're starting to implement consent, and they're as well starting to break in the dogma about gender roles. And these two characteristics, this comes from BDSM world and kink communities, where these two things have been implemented a long time ago.
Mm. Yeah, very good. So let's move on to our next question, which is about our paths. So Beatrice, tell me, how did you end up here?
What is the question?
The question is, what was your path and how did you end up here? It comes from our BliXX Peter from the UK.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's better that we name them. They already make the effort of submitting the question, so I would like to acknowledge at least the name.
Very true. Gratitude to everybody.
Very good. Wow, the story is long. So
10 minutes, huh?
Started with me being in a very long relationship for about 9 years, where I end up being sexually frustrated, especially towards the end. I have a lot of unfulfilled desires and a lot of sexual frustration. So I decided to let go of this relationship because something was not working and my confidence was like really getting low, and I didn't have the tools to really make it work. Today maybe it will be different, but back then I didn't have the tools, so I had to let go of this relationship. And I spent some time a little bit depressed, and I decided to go to my happy place, Copenhagen. So there I joined a yoga school, you know, looking for healing and for finding myself, because when you spend such a long time in a relationship, then it's difficult to find again who you are. So I joined this 1 month intensive training on this yoga school, and 4 or 5 days in the program, I discovered it was a Tantra school. So I finished my yoga program, and then I was very interested in exploring my sexuality, which I was as well doing on an unconscious way. I was fucking around, let's see, on this aim of really find myself after such a long time dry up. And then I found my partner, someone I stayed for 3 years and was like my tantric partner. And with him I try everything, all tantras, meditation, from very classical tantra to more new age or neo tantra, including yoni massage, linga massage, or any ritual that you can imagine. I try everything, and it was like really a revelation for me. It really started to know my body, to get multi-orgasmic, to try this experience, these energetical orgasms, and really it opened up my body so much. After that, well, this relationship ended up, and then my next relationship was a BDSM relationship. So actually I had a dom, and this is the first time I experienced something like that, but I already had like a lot of desires of being tied up, of you know, like being spanked and really experience domination. And I tried to ask for this in my 2 previous relationships, but my first partner was totally not open. My second partner was open to try, and we tried, and I really enjoyed it, but he didn't. And he didn't wanted to meet me on this space, so I couldn't really explore it further. So with this BDSM relationship, I went really deep. It was not a very long relationship in time, but it was like a wow, mind-blowing experience, and we will experience so many things. I'm not going to go into details, but essentially almost everything that you can do. So after, when this relationship was still going, I attended to my first sex party. It was a temple night party, And there I experienced for the first time ropes at Sibari session. It was very basic, it was very soft, but really, wow, it put me in a present, in the present moment as nothing else that I had experienced before. So it was a very, very powerful experience for me. Then I had a connection with the rigger, and we shared intimate moments. We were talking and we were sharing some intimacy without going into any intercourse, but it was like a very beautiful and intimate moment. And then he went with another girl, and I felt jealous. And for me, it was very interesting to observe, my jealousy, my feelings, and try to. I was telling myself, but Bea, you are in a sex party. What are you expecting? But all these feelings were happening, and I was observing, and I was realizing the potential of really personal growth on these kind of spaces. After that, I met this couple that they were in a BDSM relationship for 14 years, and it was as well very, very interesting experience for me, because he was very feminine and she was very masculine on the first interaction. But then when they're playing, he was like a dom and she was like totally a sub. And we were talking about their dynamics and what I bring for them. And for me, it was like, wow, eye-opening. And then the third scene that I witnessed were two couples that they exchanged. They were exchanging. So the male of one of the couples was with the female of the other couple, and the other way around. And they had like a very beautiful, intimate encounters. And then at the end, the four of them, they were sharing in a beautiful way, super conscious, beautiful and loving way. And the three experiences together on that night for me was like, wow. After so many years on the field of personal development, having tried everything in yoga, meditation, tantra, breathwork, even psychedelics, everything. For me, this space was, wow, it's like, this is truly transformational. This is like truly concentrate energy. This is where I can practice everything that I have been learning. This is where it comes to practice. So from this moment, I realized that I wanted to create these spaces of liberation, of learning for people. And I realized that my sexuality was this mix between Tantra and Kink, and practicing Kink and BDSM and domination and submissive game, and playing with different things, with different tools, with clean film, with same, with the emotions, with the body, with the mind, but always with this present and this slowness and this tantric awareness. So I wanted to create these spaces where all the expressions were represented. To take it further, that the party where I wanted like a next level of different expressions. I wanted to see everything on the same space, and people really live on this freedom. So I went to Berlin, probably, I don't know, maybe together with San Francisco, the most open sexual place in the world. And I went there because I wanted to explore myself further, and as well I wanted to explore events further and check how could I manifest my dream. And I went to Berlin and I did everything. I played parties in clubs, conscious, unconscious, everything that you can imagine, fed life, private sessions. I met gurus, I met wonderful partners. And in one of the events that I went, I met Ariane.
Ta-da!
And she was there with her tantric vibe, meditating. And I knew that this was the girl that I wanted to facilitate this space with me, because she has like something like an aura that I don't have, and she has like some qualities that I don't have, and as well the other way around. But in this moment, I was not thinking about that. I was just thinking on, oh, okay, yeah, she has something that I'm missing, and we can complement each other and really bring like wow amazing experience to the table. So I approached her and I asked her if she wanted to to create this space with me, and she said yes. And it's like, but not like this one that we are now, like so tantric, you know, I want to go kinky and go BDSM. And she was yes, yes. And it's like, okay, yeah, you really want to do it, well, very good, let's find a venue. And Ariane was like, I have a venue, I am living on the best place ever. It's like, yeah, let's meet there tomorrow. So we met there tomorrow, and in 2 hours we had the name, we had the first banner, we had the concept of the party, we had the exercise, we had the shopping list. Everything was like just flowing, and yeah, 2 weeks later we gave some 2 weeks for preparation, and 2 weeks later, our first big party was happening in Berlin almost 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's gonna be our anniversary very soon. So that's my story.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Wifey. It makes me feel very happy to hear your story, and then when I came in, it was like, oh yeah, bam, it was full power. It brings a lot of nice energy back in my body. Yeah. So how did I end up here? Well, sexuality has been very free for me since I can remember. It has been always very genuine to be sexual. It was I had a very innocent connection with my sexuality, and at the very early age I went into my first relationship. It was my second sexual partner that I had, and I've been in this relationship for 5 years, from 15 to 20 onwards. And we tried out different things. We had a Kama Sutra book. I was already like, I wanted to know how we can do different. I was very interested in that and exploring my sexuality together with him. And then at some point, I think when I was around 18, I wanted him, while I was on top of him, I wanted him to face slap me. So I asked for what I wanted. I felt safe enough to ask for that. And then my boyfriend, he kind of freaked out, and it made like, it had a huge effect on him, and he labeled me as sick. And he told me that there's something off with me because I want violence from him, and he would never, as a good Austrian man, face slap his girlfriend. Never ever. So I felt a lot of shame. I was very ashamed for having this desire. And from that moment on, I have, for a very long time, I've never went there. Until 5 years later, I had a one-night stand with a guy, and he proposed to use a belt while I was riding on top of him. And he strangled me during orgasm, and this blasted my orgasm, and I've had the most amazing orgasm that I had in my entire life. Yet it was a one-night stand, and I still felt very ashamed, and I didn't know what this was. There was no words to it, or no community around it. Growing up in Austrian countryside, it's not that we're having like BDSM clubs or communities there, and I was not so much drawn as to investigate this further. This box was kind of closed for me. And then I studied and I worked as a business consultant. And I was a lot in my masculine, and I did a lot. There was a lot in the doing, and not so much connected with my heart. And this has effect on my health. So I got an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto, and I got really sick. And I tried to find out, how can I heal myself? So I started to walk this journey of self-healing, self-knowledge, self-investigation. And on this journey, I had this recurring dream, and this was like a bunch of people where they were all naked and being super sensual, and like it was delicious. And this dream was kind of haunting me, and I started to ask the people in my surroundings, where is this place? And people were sending me to swinger club and told me that I'm longing for a mass orgy, and I was like, nah, this is not it. This does not feel right. So I meet this man, and he looks at me and he says to me, Ariane, have you heard about Tantra in India? I go home, I Google it, I'm blown away. And 3 months later, I sit on a flight to India and I walk into the doors of my first Tantra festival. And I walked in there and I could sense that, wow, this is where I feel home. This is my home. Everybody's so authentic. Everybody lives from their heart. And at the same time, they are doing so much good for the world and sharing spaces of love with a high quality of workshops. And I was like, fuck, yes, this is what I want to do with my life. I wanna contribute to that. And then my story, my path has developed. I spent a lot of time in India studying Tantra, being in Osho communities, and I went deeper into that. I traveled to Khajuraho, where I connected very deeply with ritualistic, tantric lovemaking, and I had this idea that I would love to bring this into this age, this sacred lovemaking in a room with people. It was like amazing. It was touching me a lot when I heard about this ancient history and how people in Khajuraho at that time were engaging and sharing intimacy and love with one another. And I was like, wow, yes, I want to experience this. I want to experience this in this lifetime. So I went deeper into the Kini training in Hawaii. And I started to give sessions towards sexual liberation and empowerment from a tantric perspective and angle. I gave yoni massages and lingam massages and helped and supported people on their path towards saying yes to their sexuality and connecting deeper to the genitals with the heart. Yeah. And then I ended up being in love with a hitchhiker, and he broke up with me. I was in Sweden, and I had this feeling that I need to go to Berlin. I wanted to create something. My relationship just broke, and I didn't know what really to do. I didn't want to do something by myself. I was longing for a partner a lot, to create something, to share the message, to share spaces of love. And then I figured out that a friend of mine gives a temple weekend there, and I was like, cool. I contacted her. She invited me to join in. I come in there and I meet Beatrice.
Hitchhiking. You came
Hitchhiking, yeah.
I remember she contacted me first. We saw each other. Sorry, that's so fun. We saw each other
On Facebook.
But before we saw each other, she messaged, like, or someone messaged on the groups, so who is going there, can we share a cab? And then Ariane contacted me, it's like, I am going to go hitchhiking. Do you want to come? It's like, no, I take the train.
It's very clear who is the queen here, right?
Yeah, sorry about the interruption. I found it fun. Yeah. My hippie.
Very hippie. At that point, I was very much in the exploration of my hippie me, being very flowy, allowing myself to be very feminine. My whole life, I was very masculine, working, achieving, doing. Like with my business consulting job, I worked a lot. And I discovered this. I went from one extreme to the next, and then I was very flowy. I was very feminine, very going with the flow, not planning anything. And then I wanted to combine these two, this masculine doing force and the feminine, and integrate them and bringing some wonderful places that I share from my heart with it. And I met Beatrice, and we both were like, fuck yes. And she was a cornerstone, or a very important and special person for me in liberating myself around the shame that I had for my kinky desires. That at this point, after discovering Tantra, I have not even thought about kink. It was not there. It was so much suppressed, any desire into that direction, that it was not in my consciousness. And in this temple party, when I met Beatrice, she was the one taking a flogger, and I was bonded in a group of people, of 3 people on the floor, and she was going around and flogging us. And it was blowing my mind away. It was the revelation. It was so liberating for me to receive this. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then she's approaching me wanting to organize this, and I'm like full in, and I dive into this journey together with Beatrice, and my horizon has expanded so much. I learned so many tools and techniques, how I can take it even deeper, the discovery of who I am through my sexuality. From a tantric perspective, what was for me in the years before very liberating as well, but it was very soft. So I like this integration of bringing also the darker sides in there, to taking this darkness out of our boxes that we have locked so much, and bringing this out into conscious play and acting out on that, because this is a part that we are as well. And I think this is what it's about, to really holistically integrating all parts that we are, and not through all the I'm love, ignoring that there's other things than that also. But it's not that there's no love in darkness, but I'm soft, I should say. From all the softness, that there is no place for anything else. Everything is sacred and everything is allowed. So yeah, this is my story. Mm-hmm.
This is your story, which is a big story. So I think we already answered the 2 questions. We are going to stop here. Enough say. I hope you guys like it. And if you like it, send us a question. This is very good. You can send by email. You can send by our Telegram group. We will post the links together with this. And see you on our next Q&A Tuesday.
Yay! BliXX, BliXX, BliXX. Pew!